Hi. She's Frances McDormand, actress, producer.
Drama club member.
Wooster Group associate. North Atlantic to the Birdie, Early Shaker Spirituals. We're going to see some clips a little later. I'm Kate Valk, longtime Wooster Group member. Mainly a performer, more recently an associate director, co-director. And our special eminence here today is Wooster Group Director Elizabeth LeCompte. And for almost 50 years, Liz has directed more than 40 major works for theater and many more things, media projects, the ribbon cutting ceremony, but more on that later. First, I think we better explain, Fran, how did the drama club get founded?
Did you all get your stickers? Yes. I see them. Yes, you're now members of Fran and Kate.
Okay, and I think you were given little cards when you came in. Those are for minutes or a question. You know what? Make it a question, and we're going to collect the cards later. And make sure you put your name and where you live. And we'll be taking questions later. But first, Fran, how did the drama club get started? Because it was a small format, small screen. Why?
Right, because this is our first live drama club event. It began on Zoom during COVID.
Well, it was all live on Zoom. We just weren't in the same place.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's right. I don't consider Zoom live.
So during
I consider it television. So they had started rehearsals back at the garage on Symphony of Rats.
Right. Well, just tell me why it got started. Do you
want me to talk or not?
Short form.
This is what drama
Skip
club
the real
is always
estate.
like.
Get me to the bar.
We wanted to keep it alive. They were at the garage. They were making work.
I was at Liz's loft. We were on a Zoom call with Fran. She said, I miss you guys. I'm lonely out here in wherever it is.
Wherever I was.
The undisclosed location in Northern California. Mm-hmm. And she said, Kate, what if we did a drama club? And we met on a regular basis and talked about, you wanted to center it on the archive. And
yeah, because they have always made great archives of every rehearsal, every production, and Clay, who is the archivist there, has a wonderful library, and they edit them into actually watchable videos. So,
and you were getting more involved in archive you did that podcast about archives.
Mm-hmm. Archivists.
The Archivist, which is a great podcast. And so we did 4 meetings of the drama club, 4 installments over Zoom during the pandemic. Then the Wooster Group magically kept a tour that summer of 2020 to Vienna with our production of The Mother. And then you went on to other projects.
Right. But what was
big, I can't remember.
What was really great about the drama club was that it kept the work alive for people who really wanted to know what the group was doing.
Right.
That was the point. That was really the point. Yeah. We wanted to hang out with each other, but we wanted to keep the work alive.
So that's happening. That's how it got founded during that crisis. And so can you tell us about the other crisis in your long and storied relationship with the Wooster Group? It was during 9/11.
We have many crises. I'm like, which crisis?
Yeah, but the big ones, the pandemic, 9/11.
Right.
Tell us what happened.
I want to go back a little bit farther to high school. There's a reason.
It's going to be a long afternoon.
Crisis, trauma, let's go to high school. No, but that's something we have in common. We're the same age. We we were marginal, that time. You just feel like no one will ever get
we were both the kind of gal where...
Yeah, Liz never felt that way, but most of us have. And then you find your place.
They thought we'd, grow up and maybe, I don't know, never mind, let's not get into this.
But we found
Leave the ruins of the past, let's press on.
But the theater is a place where we landed. And I think what's really interesting about going back to when we were developing To You the Birdie, The Wooster Group is on Wooster Street in Soho, not that far away from where the Twin Towers were. So we were in rehearsal. Obviously, we didn't go back that day or the next day, but about 48 hours later, we were back at the garage with masks on, going through the streets, past barricades, with ash and everything that was on the streets at that time, to gather together and congregate in a place that we needed to be. We had to gather. And we kept making work.
Yeah.
So I think that's something about the theater. It offers you that congregation.
Yeah, and you were with us for a very long period. I think, Fran, you took a couple years off to work. You wanted to stay in New York because you were raising a son.
Well, I never took any time off. That was what was great about working with the Wooster Group. I didn't have to take time off and be a parent. I got to have a career and be a working actor at the same time. And I would bring my son to, I said to Liz, what am I going to do with him? And she says, bring him down. So I have to say, my husband says about our son, his taste in film is not so great. It's kind of not what his father would hope it would be. But his taste in theater is really interesting.
And he's coming to see Symphony of Rats tonight, I think,
Yes,
which is
he is.
very nice. Just turned 30 years old. So let's watch a clip from To the Birdie, and then we can talk more about how the whole structure of the voice is developed.
Yes, I just want to say one thing before we watch this,
Sure.
because I came to see North Atlantic. This was how I got involved with, when I was always an audience member and a friend of the group, but I came to see North Atlantic, and a really dear friend of mine from drama school was sitting next to me, Melissa, and in the middle of the show, she hit me in the leg and said, "Why aren't you doing theater like this?" And I said, okay. And I went upstairs after, and I said to Liz, if you could ever use me, and she cast me as your handmaiden.
She did. But she said Kate has to be the queen.
Yes.
Here we go. Lights, Caroline, Manny.
Green flats.
Green flats, please.
You're the queen. Your husband's wife. Your children's mother. Die now, you leave your boys in danger of Hippolytus, that bastard of the Amazon.
Oh, God.
Oh, good. That made you understand. If Theseus won't return, who gets a throne?
I can't remember. I learned that in school.
You, as regent for your sons. Then what about Hippolytus? You think that wild man will let you claim it all? He has his friends. Do you have yours? Save your strength. You'll need it. Look at you. Wavering like a candle flame, when now's the time for burning, hot as bonfires.
It's my guilt smoldering, this foul black smoke.
Why do you talk like this? Guilt. Guilt, what have you done to be guilty of?
Nothing yet. It's in my mind, these thoughts.
Thoughts of what? What do you mean?
I've said enough. Leave me alone. I'd rather die than tell you anymore.
Then die! Go on. Leave me in peace. You're killing me, you know, with all this craziness. Aren't I your friend? Tell me what's wrong. Didn't I leave home and family? Follow you? Stay here to protect you from these foreigners? Is this the way you treat me?
Don't shout. Calm down. You'd be sick with horror if I told you the truth.
I'm sick as it is. I watch you waste away, moaning and weeping like a dying calf.
Suppose I told you I'd die anyway. Die of shame to know you knew.
I mean, what? How can I help you if you won't tell me what you mean? Stop talking riddles, will you? Talk some sense.
Remember, you asked to hear it. Oh, God. Oh, God. Where should I begin?
Going down.
Begin by dropping all the rhetoric. I know you too well.
It's the curse. My mother's curse, the revenge of Venus and Eros on all our family.
Forget your mother, the less said the better.
And on my sister, Ariadne, where is she now? Left to die on some saltwater rock.
Why the family litany? I know the horror story as well as you, and I'm sick of them.
They aren't over yet. I'm the last of my blood, and all that perverse passion lives in me.
Passion? Are you in love?
In love, I am in madness. In so deep I cannot breathe.
Who is it you love?
I love. I can't say it. His fatal name sticks in my throat. I love.
Who?
You spoke his name just now, that bastard of the Amazons.
Hippolytus? Oh, God.
You spoke his name, I didn't.
You make my blood run cold. You are your mother's daughter, aren't you? Despair destroys us on this alien shore, far from family, and still the curse runs on.
Okay, lights, please.
So good. So good.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about how the performance style developed with Scott Shepherd is in the back at the low table, and he does all the lines for the characters Phaedra, Hippolytus, and Theseus, but Fran as the queen's
Handmaiden.
servant that's Fran. That's her voice all the way. And Fran, all right, first of all, I have to go back and tell you that Racine's Phaedra is written in rhyming Alexandrine couplets, which a very dear friend of ours, writer, translator Paul Schmidt, who had played Dr. Chebutikin in our version of Three Sisters called Brace Up, he did a translation of Racine's Phaedra, and he took it out of the rhyming couplets and put it into very soap opera language. And so we had a hard time finding the right style for this mythic story of a woman who's in love with her stepson and happens to be the queen, and a soap opera. And Fran, of course, is not only a terrific dramatic actress.
She's
but
saying I'm good at soap opera? I'm starting to think perhaps.
No,
I would call it melodrama.
No, I jumped way ahead to say that you're a comedian. You have comic timing. And I, of course, have no timing whatsoever. And with language, and you were very good at the naturalism. And so it was hard to find the world in which I could be big and mythic as Phaedra physically and have those words coming out of me, and you as Quicksilver with the language. So once Liz said, Kate, don't say the lines anymore. You go stand behind the pole and dance. And Scott, you do all the lines for Kate. And then this incredible stage construction was born, where it was the beginning of the journey of having so much fun, of finding a way to make it seem that I, as the puppet queen, as the queen though, could seem as if I were talking.
And it freed you.
Scott is a genius, but I got the Bessie Award. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really
well,
Scott
it was
Shepherd.
really early on. It was interesting because, I had never worked with them. I was really new to their methodology. I was really out of my depth. So, and they all came to rehearsal fully off book, which I was not, because I usually learn my lines in rehearsal, going up to, in a conventional situation. You have 3 weeks of rehearsal, you learn it kinetically while you're on your feet, and then, then I was completely shamed that I hadn't learned my lines. They didn't shame me, I shamed myself. I didn't need them to shame me. I was so ashamed, and then I just could not get the microphones, I felt completely dyslexic, physically and every other way. So Liz said, well, Fran, how do you do it? And I said, well, we stand up with the script in our hands. We stand up and we stand there and we read the script and we say our lines and we talk to each other.
But don't you have a coffee in this hand?
No. And then we develop our characters, and he goes, and Liz said, okay, let's try that, Kate, come on. And we got up, and then you started crying. She's like, this feels horrible. This sucks, I hate this. So it was a really good moment for us to understand that we were building something new. It had to be something new. But I never had the thing on my ear.
Okay, and then the other layer to that, in this show in particular, we are wearing in-ear receivers, but we're not following a track because Scott's doing all the lines. We're not following an oral track for the lines. Many physical tracks, the late Martha Graham, early Merce Cunningham, Belle de Jour.
When she says following tracks, that means that there's
actor
video
monitors.
that the actors can see, and they're using
we're
that.
impulsing off of whatever information, either camera moves or content. And but we didn't. I kept saying, well, let's not lose the in-ears yet. And right before we were going to perform for the first night, I went to a rehearsal tape because we record all the rehearsals because I needed to get a bit of blocking. And that had happened by accident. And when I watched the tape, I realized that the really only interesting thing that was happening was Liz calling out, faster, louder, funnier, I should be crying now, and I remember I had a line, do I seem mad? And she was like, no. And I realized, oh my God, that's the voice of the Queen. That's the Queen. And I'm playing the Queen, but I'm the puppet. So put Liz in our ears. And so I can't tell you how wonderful it was that first night to come out on stage and hear in my ear, you look fabulous. And then she would go faster, faster, forward, more tension, less, hold off, don't touch him yet, touch him now, And suddenly it was like a coach calling to a player, but in this magical way that she was calling our performances. And then she would call fault, set. And so the whole metaphor of the court, that we were playing badminton and the court of the royal court and the game court.
You can't see so much the costumes for Hippolytus and his buddy, what's his buddy's name? But
Ceremones. So that's Scott Shepherd, Ari Fliakos, who's the lead performer in Symphony of Rats, our new show at the REDCAT, and Dominique Bousquet and Kusilja Huang were the wonderful attendants, ball girls.
The court.
And they were both prima ballerinas in some part of their life. So.
And their costumes are like shuttlecocks. They have the little green skirts.
Prada, and those are
Fabulous.
Prada shoes. They gave us a lot from their warehouse when they closed a showroom from the basement. And so we were cutting up and using a lot of Prada outfits.
They're neighbors in Soho. They were early kind of pioneers down there, so yeah.
Well, I'm eager I'm the one keeping the time. And we want to talk about that one thing of finding ways that it would seem like I was talking behind a purse,
right.
Shaking the tree. And then Fran said, you have to have a veil, because we want to see Phaedra talking behind the veil.
Well, there was something going on, and I remembered, I think Joel and I had just seen this film, and I remembered this scene from it, which we're going to show a clip from.
The Scarlet Empress.
Yeah.
With you-know-who.
And yeah, so I want to tell you why. Because in the close-up of when she's getting married, they don't have the scene of when the Scarlet Empress gets married to the idiot Dauphin. They just have they don't have the whole scene, just a close-up of her with a candle. And it's such a great indelible thing. And then we used it we tried it in rehearsal.
And then we got a veil and we used it in the show, and we'll show you the clip from the Scarlet Empress. And then you can, Manny, roll right into the next clip from To the Birdie, because it's obvious, the connection. Caroline?
Look at that. Oh my God. Is she really doing that, do you think, or did they make that candle do that?
Here comes Theseus.
Hippolytus is with him. I see this answer in his eyes. Do whatever you think is best. I leave it all to you. I've done enough. My labors are all over, Phaedra. I've come home. Your home's defiled, Theseus. I'm no longer worthy of your love. You've been betrayed. Your house has been dishonored. See my shame. I can do nothing now but hide my face.
Okay.
So that it's a really great example too of the collaborative process. Liz is the visionary. Everybody gets to bring their ideas to the table, and I think that's the amount of time that the process takes can afford that. That's what's interesting. 3 weeks in a conventional theater situation doesn't allow that kind of collaboration. But there were other things that I think, one of the things that I love that I found out about the methodology and talk a lot about with younger actors is that it's the precision that you have to have in a Wooster Group production. Because literally, if I would move one of those screens at the wrong time, I could cut somebody's finger off. Or I could cut my own finger off. You have to do it precise. It has to be precision, and it keeps you alive in the moment, present every time. You're never just dialing it in, and you're always open and alive to new possibilities every single time, no matter how technical it may seem.
Yeah. And speaking of being open and alive to new possibilities, the next thing we want to talk about is the other piece you created with us, Early Shakers Spirituals. And that was my first foray into directing. I would just say being the person on the outside, because it was so collaborative.
I would call it directing.
Yeah, no, but what I'm trying to say is, when I first met Liz, when I was 21, and I was volunteered myself, and one of the first things was a group trip. We all piled into her van, and we went to see all the Shaker communities in New England and Maine. She was reading a book called The People Called the Shakers, and I was like, oh, I didn't ask her too many questions at that point, just was sort of interested in everything. And we went to all these Shaker communities, went to Sabbath Day Lake, Maine, where her aunt had a house on the lake, and she had gone there as a girl in the summer, and we bought the record Early Shaker Spirituals, sung by the sisters of the Sabbath Day Lake community in the 70s, and one of them, Mildred Barker, was still alive at the time.
1970s.
Yeah, and thank you. Did I say 18?
No, just 70s.
It was a while ago. But she was still alive, and we got to sit with her on the porch, and we always played that record, and then we got it on tape and CD, and it's always been in our lives forever and ever. And for me, the Shakers have been kind of a metaphor for our collaborative process, a kind of communitarian approach to taking care of the performing garage as well. I mean, we're not a cult or a collective like that.
Well, and it's also matriarchally led, and I think that's a really important thing, and has clearly held its elders as everyone has gotten older, as we are manifest here today.
Yeah.
And so we went out. We were
out.
We were trying to
in a bar.
Let me tell the story. Okay. We were talking about working together again, and Kate said, "Well, what do you feel like doing?" And I said, "I really want to sing, and I want to wear a bonnet." And she said, well, "I think I've got just the thing."
And I've been using a record album as the organizing principle for the structure of a production has been something that Liz has done since the early days, since Spalding and Nay at School, and For the Good Times, and Hula, and even LSD, Just the High Points, started with a record. It's always like, how do we begin a piece? Back in the day, get the record player and the records out, even before you got the theatrical text. And so we started doing a record album interpretation of Early Shaker Spirituals, and Liz had the best voice, and I wanted all these great women. Cynthia Hedstrom, who's here with us today, producer of the Wooster Group, against the back wall by the door. Fran McDormand, Liz LeCompte, Suzy Roach. And I'm like, oh my God, do we have a room full of Shakers here? So I came on the outside, and I was very eager to make dances, because I was looking for ways to keep ecstatic dancing in my life as I get older. I love that whole aspect, that all of their worship is dance and music. And it's called laboring. So then we started those rehearsals, and it kind of made itself, and we did it on the set of our production of Cry Trojans, and Liz made a few changes, so it was like a circle, which, like the record, like the shaker dances, were always in a circle. It just kind of made itself.
It didn't kind of make itself. It was really rigorous. And I have to say that's something about rehearsal. It's so rigorous. Going back to the Birdie, we had a Olympic champion ping pong coach, an Olympic champion badminton coach. We had warm-ups at the beginning of rehearsals. I thought I had to take my blood pressure. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It was, I'd studied Grotowski. I knew that you had to keep your body as an instrument, but this was ridiculous. It was fun, but I was in the best shape of my entire life doing To You the Birdie. But with this, what I loved about this, also the references. So there's no videos of shakers dancing. They just talk about the dances. They've written them down, and you reference
Well, actually,
those.
it's not the shakers who wrote them down. There's a collection of 2 volumes of visiting the shakers, and it was quite fashionable to travel up the Hudson, up the coast of New England, and visit the shaker communities, and you'd be of a certain class where you could keep a travel diary and have them published. Even it includes one from Charles Dickens and many writers, and just women who, that's what they did. They traveled and kept diaries. And so the descriptions of the shaker services and the dancing and the clothing and the mien of the shakers it's wild all over the place.
So there's
like
that
bears
actual,
clawing the air.
Actual documents, but then you chose references of other kind of aesthetic dancing that we would reference while we were developing it.
Exactly. We would take either a physical description from the journals visiting the shakers, or we were looking at the McIntosh County dancers from the coast of the Sea Islands, Georgia. And they had a tradition of sacred dancing in a circle too. And we also looked at some Native American powwows. We were going to a lot of powwows at the time. They're out at Queens, at the Queens County Farm Museum. And that circling again, the circling, and that in sacred dance, you never cross your feet. You can do anything and go crazy, but this is somehow secular. You have to keep your feet parallel. I don't know.
It's really good to have those rules. It's good because then it sets a rule. If everyone knows the rules, if you step out of it, it gets exciting. But you stay the rules. But what was also great, those 2 circles that you created with the women, everyone who at that time was over 55, between 55 and 70.
Right. So we had these. The power women, I would say, and then I knew that I wanted 4 male escorts, and they would be heavenly escorts, but they had to be under 30, and we had wonderful young people around us. And so it was Andrew Schneider, Flaco Jimenez, who was working with us at the time, and then Bobby McKelver, our sound guy, was a great dancer, and Matthew Brown. So anyway, so the men under 30, women over 55, and then the incredible B.B. Miller, the dancer, she had taken time off and she wanted to watch a Wooster Group rehearsal. And I said, well, we're just doing this little piece, but you can watch. And as soon as she walked in the room, I was like, what are you doing? Get down there. And so she joins for the second half, and we're going to see a clip right now from Early Shakers Spirituals, 2 tracks.
On Zion's holy ground are true believers found, and there's no other one, and there's no other one, and there's no other one can stand thereon. Lo do 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 lo lo do 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 lo lo do 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 lo lo do 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 lo. Lift up children, says Holy Mother, soothe and comfort one another. La 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 la. Lift up children, says Holy Mother, soothe and comfort one another. La 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 la.
I want to explain a couple things if you haven't seen that show, that piece, and if you haven't seen other Wooster Group productions. We had the record in our ear. So it's a side A of a album, a vinyl album on a turntable. We're hearing it and channeling the women we're listening to. So that production was in Tokyo. And what was really great about a Japanese audience is that they understand ghosts in a room. They understand that there's presence. There's always their ancestors present in a room. So women were weeping. And the other thing I love about it is that Kate kept the elder women in the inner circle. So we did almost all the movement that the young men did on the outer circle, but they had to work harder to cover more space. So they were dripping with sweat and out of breath, and we were calm and cool as cucumbers, which was very satisfying.
Now, Fran, this is, we have a hidden mic in our
in the
planter,
plant, as we do.
so that I could be mobile. And we were wondering if, Liz, would you join us on stage?
She's not going to do it unless you clap for her. Come on, come on.
Would you?
We said it's like she came from the varsity game.
You can stay facing backward.
It's like she came from the varsity basketball game.
She gets to do anything she wants. She turned 80. I shouldn't have done that. That was never.
No, but she can. She's our senior. She's the senior.
Okay, but anyway, Fran wanted to ask you.
Just one thing, though.
Yeah.
I did have my.
Well, you got to talk into the microphone. You think you would know that, Liz?
But that's what I want to say. The reason I'm not up here is because I don't have a memory anymore. I mean, I have a memory, but it's not detailed.
No, well, but between the three of us, we can get a whole sentence
so
out.
I have nothing to say about the past.
That's
what I'm
okay.
saying.
So just hang on to
but
that.
here is my problem right away.
Here, come over here.
No, we don't want.
Oh, this will be you. You take the microphone and sit out there. No, you take the microphone, you sit out there, and
I love it.
And they can talk.
Okay, so anyway, Fran wanted to ask you, what was it like becoming a performer again and having me direct you?
So Liz, what we'd like to know is, no, but that was really great. I mean,
Do you remember when I walked out on your first performance?
Yes.
Enough said.
I also remember there were some performances where your first solo, which was really, really moving, if you started to get a little teary, the rest of us were just like because
this is it. Yeah,
in early Shaker Spirituals, it was a really, really moving piece, and you obviously, if it moves you, it's probably not going to move you, but sometimes. Fuck you. We had our own experience, and it was like this. It was vibrant, don't you think? You too. Yeah, for all of us.
But moving right along, we do want to. Yeah, we do. We do want to. You also wanted to ask Liz about her. We want to show some clips from the show that's at the REDCAT right now.
Oh yeah, that's why we're here.
Symphony of Rats. There's actually, guys, they just added another show. So Wednesday, I think 2 or 3, Katie, 3 p.m. on this coming Wednesday. Tickets are still available. We hope you'll come see us because it's so great to be out here on the West Coast. Because people on the West Coast, they don't mind if you play a movie and do a play at the same time. And you guys are great. And so, Fran, you wanted to ask Liz about something about Richard Foreman?
Yeah. Why? When did you work with him in the early days in New York?
Me?
Yeah. Never.
I can't remember.
Okay, but did you ever see one of his productions then? Because you all came up around the same time, right?
I do remember because he was very important for me very early on. And I do remember before I really ever thought about making pieces, I saw 2 of his pieces and said, that I could do that to myself.
Did you say to yourself, I could do that better? Probably.
No comment.
Okay. I don't think he's alive.
Probably, yeah, he is. He lives up the street. Don't bury him yet.
He's right over there.
He lives up the street from the performing garage. That's why it was my idea to do Symphony of Rats again, because I was in it in 1988 and I was too young.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no idea what the language was about. I was too young, but I loved being in the show because it was so fun, all his props and the physical running around, but I had no idea what the play was about.
Do you now?
Yes, I love his writing. It's a series of false starts. He uses a lot of language from psychotherapy and philosophy, and he reads everything. And he is so resistant to narrative that he gets into false starts and repetition. And it can be like abstract poetry, but the more I'm in it and working on the piece, it's so open. It's better than advertising. You know, it's so... I love his language because it doesn't say it directly. It gets to it in another way. It gets to experience, consciousness, and all the forces at play.
And that is specifically Symphony of Rats. Why this one?
Because I knew it would be a good role for Ari. And I was enjoying being on the outside so much with Liz that I really didn't want to perform, and I knew Richard would let us. We've had a lot of trouble with writers and their estates, and I knew Richard would let us do anything we wanted with the writing. And we got in touch with him and we said, can we do this play? He said, you can do anything you want. He said, this is very exciting for me. I hope it's completely unrecognizable. And then Liz said, I hope you'll come down and see it. And he said, yes, and then I can stand up at the end and go, that's not how it was. But he didn't. He came to see it in open rehearsal, and he said, oh, this is really very good. Or maybe he was lying, because he might have told Joan Jonas something different later that day. But he came back to see it. He did say, we were like, need to add 20 more minutes. What should we do? He said, 20 more minutes of the Ice Cream Man. And you won't see that in these clips, but you will see it if you come to the show, The Ice Cream Man. It's a highlight. So let's watch the first clip from Symphony of Rats. And Liz, if you would sit here, because I got to get, that seat blocks the screen.
If you don't mind.
Caroline, Manny, roll tape.
Are you still asleep, Mr. President?
I try not to.
Sleep, after all, takes one into the unconscious life of men, women, children, old people.
I am kissing the president gently on his cheek.
Get away from me! All this garbage is pouring out of me! Like, can't you see it? Like rays, like I'm broadcasting such junk! Do something about it. That's an order to myself. Do something about it.
About what?
You haven't been listening. Take my pulse. I mean my mental emotional pulse, my spiritual pulse.
I don't know how, sir.
Okay, get me a standard United States citizen.
I don't know any, sir.
Is this thing on?
Is this thing on? Get me a U.S. citizen.
It's strange. It's crazy. I must feel like I want to start dancing. Oh, that's crazy. One thing I don't want to do is dancing.
I am now across the room from the president doing little dance steps, which are obviously meant to encourage him.
I'm afraid everything that's happened, well, I'm not a very good dancer.
steps become more elaborate. I dance good, but I don't have a great mental background, Mr. President. So you'll probably outdo me on any conversational level.
Well, I have to admit, it hasn't been a very pleasant few weeks. But when you do that kind of dance, it's something very glamorous.
We shouldn't even try to carry on a conversation when dancing.
I suppose words aren't the only way to communicate.
Buffo, so join us.
I think I will.
You dance so good. I thought I heard you were inhibited, Mr. President.
I was, but I think the glamour of the situation, dancing with you, made me break through that wall of inhibition and start dancing. Then when I do it, I find out I'm not too bad at it after all. So I'm glad I made the plunge. I'm gay.
Yes.
I'm gay.
Yes. 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 Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, everybody.
President of the United
The
States.
President,
Ladies and
the
gentlemen,
President of- Hey, everybody. The President of the United
President of
States.
the United States.
Oh, who did that?
So that's from Symphony of Rats, and I have to say that the creation of the character of Renee, the stick figure you see dancing in the sky, who first appears as a pulsating blue concentric circle that doesn't even have a body. She's the female presence in the show. And when we first started working on Symphony of Rats, and Richard said we could edit it, and it did need editing for our modern audiences. We had to trim down the language. And Liz's first impulse towards the language was to lift it out of the Freudian world that Foreman has so much fun in. Like his playground is really Freudian. You know, it's a lot about the woman as the other, like, dance with me, Mr. President. Ooh, you dance good. And Peyton Smith and I were the two women in the show, and Ron Vaughter, the late, great Ron Vaughter, and Jeff Webster. Ron was the president, and Jeff was the presidential aide, and the four of us made up the cast, along with a couple of rat catchers for the end. And Liz's impulse to lift it out of that was to put all the language into meter so that she could score, it would be lifted vocally for the performer, and she could score the entire piece to music because she really wanted it to be a symphony, or was really taking the big cue from the title. And like anything we do, any playwright, and especially the Foreman, we have to keep learning what it means. You can't say what it means and interpret it. I think you would end up imitating his style if you did it, because his style, directorial style, is very potent. As a matter of fact, I didn't know the play, what I was saying when I was in it, but it got into my subconscious, and I was intrigued and wanted to go back to it that many years later. There were two giant robots in the original production and that had TV heads, and it was Richard Foreman himself. He was, the first time he was going to put his image, his voice had been incorporated in his work for a very long time, but the first time his image. And so he was the super consciousness, this big spirit being robot puppet that was going to have this conversation about everything with the president. And I knew none of the rest of us in the room would be able to handle that with that kind of authority, but Liz has that she's just a very good reader and has that sardonic wit in common with Foreman, but very much her own style, and that was great right away. But then when we went to stage it, we didn't, Jim Fletcher was the good embodiment of the nemesis to the president, the spiritual being, the giant rat. And so we went full opera on the rat opera in the middle of the piece. And then Liz could take on some of the lines the women had. And so we recorded Liz, and we keep recording on the fly. We don't do it all once, and that's that. That's part of our process, is that we record, use it. It might be a scratch tape, but it might turn out to be the scratch tape, and we add and subtract from there. And our sound guy, brilliant sound guy, Eric Sluter, put Liz's recording through an AI processor, a character called Renee. So it's Liz's voice processed through Renee, so the character of Renee was born. And then for the dancing, she needed a body, and Liz and Yudam Huang, who is our brilliant video artist that we're working with, he created the projection in the sky. And so we do have another clip from To the Birdie, but I'm worried about time.
Actually, from Symphony of Rats, you haven't
Oh yeah, Symphony of Rats. How are we doing, Priscilla? One more minute till it's all over?
Well,
so you know we love to take questions, because that's always the most fun part. So Caroline, could you collect all the cards? Or if anybody wants to help Caroline collect the cards, it could probably happen faster. If like Sadie and Piper, could you get the cards from this bank of people? Yeah, go collect them and bring them up here.
Yeah.
These are the next generation of theater artists right here, Sadie and Piper. Anybody who has a question on a card, give it to Caroline, Sadie, Piper, bring it up here. And we'll go back and forth. Oh, this is exciting. You guys did great. Thank you.
Oh, no. I need my glasses, though.
Oh, no. You can borrow mine.
No, you start.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, this from Susan James of LA, formerly of New York City. Hi, Susan. Liz, your career has been remarkable, exclamation point. What do you hope to be remembered for in terms of your technique?
Oh, is that?
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit, yeah, a sneeze. This is why I'm not really cut out for this. Can't you guys help me out on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Liz, you know what? Susan, where are you?
Yeah.
Susan, stand up. Yeah. You know what, Susan? She doesn't want to be remembered. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
Because she has told me many times, Kate, when I die, the world ends. I don't care. I don't care what happens to you or the performing garage.
Yeah.
She don't care if she do-die, 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 do-die.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Johnny Cash. Anyway, next.
Amanda B., North Hollywood. What keeps you motivated when you've been developing a project for a long time and are growing tired of it?
I've never grown tired of a project. Oh. Liz taught me very early on, or I learned from her. She didn't teach me anything. I just picked things up. She always said, Katie, if you love it, just keep imagining it in its ideal form, and you'll never grow tired.
Good answer. Hi, says Aaron A. from Visalia. When collaborating, if someone's been an asshole, meaning unfun, how does one best apologize?
Oh.
Also, how does one let go of a grudge? I never let go of a grudge. It gets you, it motivates you.
I say it can be it's a grudge is your greatest teacher, I've come to learn.
No, it's
It took
true.
me a long time.
Yeah, we're not being
to know that you got to
facetious.
use that grudge, you got to work it, because it's getting you worked up, so something's going on.
No, but it's also, a competition is good. I don't think that there's a really positive aspect to competition. And
did
that's
you ever
what we
have
work on.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, if you ever
Don't you think? I think that's one of the reasons you cast me as a gnome. Because I could help you be the queen by serving you, right?
Yeah.
Because we basically are the same age, have been working as actors the same amount of time, so we were challenging each other.
Yeah,
so
definitely. No grudge,
really
you know, if you got a grudge match.
Grudge match.
Get out the
Smackdown.
rackets and go. That's why it's so fun that Liz always makes a game that that we play that might not have anything to do with the text. Like for Vieux Carré, it was basketball, and I'm like dressed up like a drag queen, and I'm doing basketball practice with Scott and Ari. That was exhausting, but she always
For me,
picked
that was
something-
extremely entertaining.
Yeah, see, it's often about what just makes her day.
Yeah, so she does something that makes the room kinetic.
Yeah.
And then
And it also because then sometimes it gives everybody a chance to shine. Like I am not sportive.
You, what? Well, what about baton twirling?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
You led baton
I
twirling.
am not a sportive person. I'm watching all these excellent badminton players. They're actually hitting the shuttlecock and getting it across the room. I can't even do that. And I started fucking around with the racket because I was a majorette in high school. And so I taught everybody how to twirl. That's really all I offered to you, the birdie, was twirling.
This from Martin. This from Martin of Silver Lake. Given the increasing preponderance, I think, predominance of screens in our lives, has the company changed its use of monitors on stage? Ooh, that's a good one.
Well, what else would you use? Have you used anything else but the video monitors for?
Well, when I first joined the company, she didn't have TVs. She was using Super 8 film and projecting it on the architecture of the stage space. There was a lot of film, and then I remember...
So the actors weren't referencing anything? When did that begin?
Not in the early days.
When did that begin?
House lights.
As soon as I could afford 4 televisions.
Right. That was in the 80s. We got the Sony monitors, 4 Sony monitors.
Yeah, really good
They weren't
ones.
even TVs.
Huge.
Giant.
But it's a really interesting question, actually, because I think the evolution of technology you've always been open to it. I know when we first started working on North Atlantic, because I hate telephones in a room and I hate people referencing them and the sounds that they make. And I said, can we make a rule about people not being able to look at their phones, Liz? And she said, no. Why would we? I was like, oh.
Fran, do you have another one? Do you want my glasses?
No, I read all of mine.
Okay, so this is from Peter Ballas of New York City and LA, totally bi-coastal. You have so many moving parts in every Wooster Group performance, screens, chairs, objects, and actors. Have there been instances where blocking has gone awry, driving a show, and did you incorporate it into the scene? What comes to mind? Oh, go, you go.
Oh, you go.
No, don't forget.
2 nights ago.
The last night, the moth?
No, the moth we didn't incorporate it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the earlier. Wah.
Okay, this is so interesting. Opening night, REDCAT, Symphony of Rats. We're poised to go, and they're holding just a few minutes, and our sound guy, Eric Sluter, went to cue up something, and it played in the room. It went, or what was it, bound. And the audience quieted down, and we're totally silent, because they thought it was going to stop, and then there was nothing but quiet expectation facing the playing area. And then Ari and Dee Dee
Finally had to come out.
came out, and Liz and I were sitting in different parts of the theater, and we both thought at the same time, this is fantastic. Because why should the President of the United States have to wait and get everybody's attention? That's just not how it would happen. Oh, and by the way, I forgot, I want to mention, that was Ari Fliakos as the president, and then from stage right was Andy Millay, Neil Cunningham, Michaela Murphy, and Guillermo Resto. I think I got everybody, yes. And
Jim Fletcher.
Jim Fletcher. Jim Fletcher. as many guises.
To that question, something happened to the birdie because one night I didn't have the veil. And I panicked right before I was supposed to put the veil over your head. I remembered I'd left it at the back. So I crawled across the stage and got it, and then ran and slid on my knees because I had knee pads on. And then Liz made me do that continually.
And you know, Fran, I wish we had a clip of that because I'm in awe of what you did. Like
that's never going to happen again.
Half a stage knee slide. Thank you, Peter. This is from I Just Meant the Brightness. Do you work with live musicians? Oh.
We did, remember, for...
the opera.
No, for Emperor Jones.
Oh, yeah. David Linton, who is a brilliant percussionist. He usually played a giant trap set, but he was working with, beginning to work digitally, and we were working on The Emperor Jones by Eugene O'Neill, and there's a stage direction at the beginning that says, there's the sound of a tom-tom that starts at the rate of a human heartbeat, and through the 7 scenes of the play, it gets increasingly faster and faster and faster until the death of the Emperor Jones. And Liz said, you know, how should we do that? Do you know any drummers? And I said, well, David Linton. And it was just match made in heaven. And he came in and made the piece with us and made all these incredible tracks. And jungle music was big at the time, and drum and bass. And he was working with a lot of that, and it fit perfectly. And he used to perform with us live in the early productions.
You also have the drummer in Get Your Ass in the Water.
Oh yeah, another record album interpretation, Get Your Ass in the Water and Swim Like Me. I hope we can bring it to LA.
Demand it. You want to see it.
A brilliant drummer named Jairus Yokley. And those are 2 instances, because we also did an opera, big collaboration with a musical director, Bruce Odland, or a sound artist that you collaborated with, but 4 classical musicians, Baroque opera musicians, which was so much fun, crazy. How do you approach directing as an actor? I suppose I could take this one.
I think so.
I approach directing as an actor. I try and direct like I want to be directed. And somebody told me, well, when you first got the chance to direct Liz, did you get back at her for everything, whatever? And I said, oddly enough, I'm in total empathy now with her. Now I get it. I understand the impatience. And everything about it. But so yeah, I feel like we're a good combo because I don't do what she does. I'm not a visual, and she's
what she does.
Yeah, I love editing scripts and text, and I love performers. I love working with them, and especially Symphony of Rats, because they're a very talented group, which I'm like, whew. It's really fun to give notes and everything. So
I found that it was the same. It was similar on Early Shaker Spirituals for you. Seeing her being in a performer's chair, literally.
I can't remember.
No, it was good. It was really good.
And that's a really good thing about our work, because there's a line in Symphony of Rats that says, "This is a very pregnant memory trace." And I feel like that's what the show is, and a lot of the work is. You're remembering your own past, you're remembering past productions of Hamlet or whatever it is. They're all there in the room with you, as you were saying. I think that's it for today. Where are we? We ready to go? Ready to wrap it up? This is Priscilla. Priscilla, come out here. Thank you so much.
Priscilla, thank you.
And we'd love to come back to LA and to the REDCAT or Hauser Wirth or anywhere. And I also want to thank Manny and Caroline and Mike and Sean and Gabrielle and Antonio.
Antonio.
And that was actually just a memory test for me, and I feel really good because I passed.
So you got your stickers. If you want a stick-on tattoo, we have those too.
Yeah.